This is the service where y'all get to ask questions. And so I will take a pause there right towards the very end of this message, and so you can ask questions about this particular message. And I am really looking forward to this particular one, and so we'll see if it spurs any questions or not. I know if this week won't, 2 weeks from now, holy cats, that'll be a great night for questions. Read ahead in Song of Solomon. You'll see what I'm talking about. But, okay, now. One of the things that I love about my role here at Hope is that I really do like to get to know a lot of people. I really have enjoyed that here at Hope. I'm coming off this tremendous ride of doing spring retreat, and then Monday morning and Tuesday all day, Cora and I were at a conference for the North Central District of the Evangelical Free Church of America, and so we were up there for 2 days, up in Constance, Minnesota, and that was fantastic, being around all these pastors of different churches around the state of Minnesota. Got on a plane, went to Chicago, hung with our staff, about 6, and then 5,500 other people to a thing called the Gospel Coalition. Came back Thursday, and then Friday, passed out. I mean, I was so tired, just passed out. But I'm in a season right now, honestly, where my cup is really full. I don't know if when our kids were little, I used to say to them, or I used to say to Carol, I'm saying, whoa, right now, I'm having a moment. It's just a moment when everything feels right and good. And, and when you have little kids, that's going to last about maybe 15 seconds. And then, somebody will fill a diaper or something or whatever, but Carol or whatever. Is this being recorded? But anyway, it goes real quick. But I'm kind of right now I'm not a real reminiscent guy, but I'm kind of really grooving on what God's doing at Hope right now and has been doing. Spring retreat really hit me. You people are just great. I just love being around you. And it's not because if you're new to Hope, this isn't a love fest. There are people in this room that just are terrible, I'm telling you. But you might be sitting next to the one bad egg, probably. And so, wow, that just was a real awkward moment. But what makes you guys great is because you actually believe this stuff. You actually believe it. You actually believe the Bible's true, that God is who he said he is, that Christ came for you, and you believe that. And it actually makes you different. Not only just because of your intellect, but because the Holy Spirit's working in your life, and it's just addicting to be around you. And so I just say that as a note of encouragement. One of the things that I get to do that is a very encouraging thing is I get to be a part of a lot of weddings. At Hope, I only do now about 6 to sometimes 10 at most, but weddings a year. It ends up being a lot of them. But I have done a lot of weddings over the years. And I don't know, somewhere in the 140 range or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I kind of lost count. I remember every one of them, but I can't count them. So, but that's one of the things that I have truly enjoyed. And every time I do a wedding, and I love doing weddings, I was one of those freaks that tears up even as I'm doing the wedding, which is a little bit awkward at times. But it brings me back to my wedding. This is a picture of my wedding right there. I'm in the room. I'm in the room, Seamus. I'm right here. I can hear you. Carol and I got married August 13th, 1988. How many of you were not alive in 1988? Shut up! That is stupid. Don't you have to take a nap now? Isn't it nappy nap time or something? Wow. Look at that picture. Look at me in that picture. Since then, I've gotten gray, gotten chubby, and gotten wrinkled. Look at Carol. She has longer hair now. I'm serious. I am married to Benjamin Button. It is weird. We're out riding on our motorcycle, and this guy comes up to me, and he looks at me, and he says, "How come all the older guys get the young chicks?" I'm going, she's older than me. Significantly It doesn't do anything. My wedding was a great day. I remember driving to my wedding. I think it was a 3 o'clock wedding, and I don't remember, 12 o'clock, or whenever you're supposed to get there, 11, I don't remember what it was. I remember going by the bank thermometer. It was 101 degrees, and it was high humidity, South Bend, Indiana. Hotter than anything. Now, we fortunately had chosen a church that had an air conditioning. Praise God. That is one of the spiritual gifts not listed in the New Testament, air conditioning. Up until a few years ago, this building right here had no air conditioning. We have it right there. That's as far as we could afford to bring it. So it just comes right over here. And this is the meat locker section right over in here. Some of you love that. Others of you don't. It'll kick on in about 2 or 3 weeks, and it'll be wonderful. Mostly over in here, over here. But it's beautiful compared to what it was. Roland and Marge Hilden, people who've been part of this church or this building, the church that was here before us, and then just stayed with us. When we came to the building, they had their wedding here. It was 217 degrees in here. No, I don't know. I'm just kidding. I have no idea. They talk about 100 and 105, 107 in the room. And just incredible. But I remember that day. I remember a lot of it. But one of my favorite parts of it is the processional. Processionals of weddings, even to this day, still choke me up. You know, where it starts where, sometimes if you do this, if you don't do it, it's no big deal, but the moms come up and they light these candles, kind of signifying Genesis 2, where it talks about, for this cause a man will leave his father and mother, and the two will be united. So in other words, here's the two women who gave you birth, who gave you life, and they light these candles, and then later you unite them, and you make the unity candle, which is a little hokey, but it works. And I did it, and it was great. But I remember that moment when I was off to the side, and kind of similar to what you ever had hoped, I could open the window or open the little sliding thing, and I could see my mom and Carol's mom walk up. I lost it at that moment. And then to go through the processional. Usually the groom comes out, usually with the pastor. Groom, in this situation, they almost always stand right there on the floor. And I love this building. It's a great building for weddings. It really is. There is no center aisle, all right? And so you can't walk down the center. I'm still waiting for the bride that says, I'm walking down the center. I'm going down. But we haven't had that yet. It hasn't happened. But you can come along the side here, and that's a beautiful entry. Or you can do, with this particular building, you can start up there and then walk along, hit that stained glass, and walk nice and slow. I always tell them, I always say, hey, walk slow. I have behind my back a 6-shooter. I'm a good shot. I'll just wing you, okay? So I just clip them a little bit to slow them down. But they walk in slow, and they come down here, and they wait over here. And this guy's over here the whole time. I always check out the guy, and I can see it's kind of a mixture of emotion and thinking, wow, this is an amazing event. And at the same time thinking, come on down here, girl. Let's go. Let's get going. Come on. And there's this excitement happening. That's what I want to talk about today. I actually want to talk about that whole concept of processional. And I want to talk tonight about the tale of two processionals. Okay? I'm changing the title of the message. We're still going to talk about Song of Solomon, but I want to talk about the tale of two processionals. And you'll see that the second one gives fuel or gives energy to any of the first one. All right? So when we get there, that'll make sense to you. But a tale of two processionals. We are in a series right now in the book of Song of Solomon. If you got your Bible with you, take it, open it to the dead middle. I'm pretty sure you're going to open to Psalms. When you get to Psalms, keep going to the right. You'll get to Proverbs. Then you'll get to a little book called Ecclesiastes and the next book of Song of Solomon. If the person is next to you kind of looking at you weird because you don't know where it is, it's probably that one jerk, and just elbow him right in the throat. Just nab him. I'm new to the Bible. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Okay, got it? I've never seen anybody actually do that when I tell them. That'd be a little weird, actually. But, okay, so Song of Solomon. We are in this series of Song of Solomon. It's been a few weeks since we've actually been in the book of Song of Solomon. So I want to walk you through real quick, just a few minutes here, kind of walk you through what's happened previously on Song of Solomon, so to speak, okay? So I kind of going to get you up to speed. We started with, in chapter 1, we started with this whole idea, and the way I take Song of Solomon, I think it lays out like this, is that it is a love story, it's a love song, it's poetry, so it's very hard to interpret. You'll see that today. But is this love song between a man and a woman? I think it's between this woman and Solomon, King Solomon, and it unfolds, and it starts with attraction. In chapter 1, you can see this. She just likes this guy. She hasn't really met him. She doesn't really know much about him. and as you're going to see at the end of the chapter, if you read it through, you'll see that her friends, the daughters of Jerusalem, are going to say, go and hang out by him. So you get kind of in his way. Put yourself in the path of the shepherd's tents is what it literally says. And it says this, pleasing is the fragrance of your perfume. Your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the maidens love you. Okay, so this guy is a chick magnet. Everybody likes him, and the women really like him. But she says, but I really like him. I want him. And it says this, take me away with you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers. I mean, she's giddy up, right? She's really attracted to this guy. Now, that leads, he doesn't know this yet. She's going to go hang out by him as the story unfolds. He doesn't know a whole lot about this. And how's he going to respond? He responds, because she kind of communicates, I kind of like you. He responds back to her with a classic line, which says, when they have their DTR, which stands for define the relationship, right? The dreaded DTR. He responds back, I liken you, my darling. And she's kind of waiting to hear what he'll say. I liken you, my darling, to a mare harnessed to one of the chariots of Pharaoh. In other words, the whole idea here is in battle, these stallions, male horses, would take, two of them would be on a chariot, and they would drive these war chariots to war, and oftentimes the other army would send out a mare, often a mare in heat, to go and be amongst those. And the stallions would go, war, 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 mare, well, mare. And so they just kind of go that way. It is my nickname now for Carol all the time, just you are like a mare, harnessed to one of the chariots of Pharaoh. So it just means, he answers her by saying, you really are distracting me. I can't stop thinking about you, like a mare. So that's the dreaded DTR. I heard rumor, I don't have names, but I just heard rumor that up at the spring retreat, there were a lot of DTRs going on. A lot of people having the dreaded DTR. I don't know if that was in the agenda that I didn't see or what, but a lot of people had these, hey, I kind of like you. What do you think about that? And so just for those, I want to speak to the men just to remind you that the women here at Hope are like my daughters, and this is what I look like on the weekends, okay? So, just a reminder, treat my daughters with respect, all right? So, women, treat my sons with respect. I remember the first time I used that, I just come back from trap shooting, and I have shot trap now for many years, but I've never shot 25. You get 25 targets, and you shoot at 25 flying clay pigeons. I've never gotten 25. I always seem to miss one. And I'm almost always in the 20s, but I've gotten many 24s, but never 25. Matter of fact, I've gotten all the way up to I missed the 23rd target one time. I was almost shaking. I was like, I'm going to do it. Anyway, that's the point of this story is this. It's possible I'll miss you once, but I got an automatic, I won't miss you twice. I'm just saying. Wow. Take that as a promise or a threat. I don't know, whatever, how you want to take it. Okay, it goes from there. They have the DTR. They're courting. They have this dating relationship. They kind of hang out. And then it moves to where Solomon comes and he is going to ask her for her hand. He's going to propose. And it looks like this. It's beautiful. He does it in two different ways. The first one is, come with me. It'll be beautiful. He says this, my lover spoke, or she's speaking. He says, my lover spoke and said to me, so she's speaking, but she's quoting him, arise, my darling, my beautiful one, and come with me. See, the winter is past. The rains are over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The season of singing has come. The cooing of doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrances. Come with me. It'll be like springtime, baby. And the second thing he says is, come with me. I really want to commune with you. I really want to know you. And look at what he says. He says, arise, come, my darling. This is in verse 13, the second half of it. My beautiful one, come with me. My dove is in the clefts of the rock, in the hiding places on the mountainside. Show me your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. He says, I just want to talk with you. I want to look at your face. I want to study it. Come with me. We'll commune. And she says, yes. She says it in the most unique way possible, if you remember. She starts off by saying, in 2:16, she says, my lover is mine and I am his. He browses among the lilies. And if you remember what that whole thing is, she says, I'm just like a lily in a valley of lilies. This is a good line, he picks up on that and he says, Yeah, but you're a lily among thorns. Huh? I'm talking, That's a good line. Like everybody, the other lilies, but to me they're like thorns. And now she's saying, he browses among the lilies and he chooses me. Okay? That's the rated G version of how she says yes. The rated R version with the next verse, 2:16. I don't have a slide for this, but I'll say, she says, I can't wait, because she used to describe him coming to see her as like a goat or a mountain or a stag or a deer going on the mountains. And she basically says, I want you to come on my mountains. I'm just going to say that. So that's her way of saying yes. I'm just quoting scripture here. If you don't like it, just read 2:17. It's in 2:17. It's this way of saying, I'm looking forward to that. And so she gets kind of steamy at times. In fact, this leads to this interesting dream. She has this dream, or it's a fantasy, or it's some thought process that's going through. When we get to chapter 3, this interesting dream where she's going through and she says, all night long on my bed, I'm looking for the one I love. And now he's gone away, if you follow the story. So it's this kind of fantasy or dream or whatever. Then it says on the next slide, it says, scarcely had I passed them, because she had stopped. I skipped a little bit here, but she said, I stopped to talk to some watchmen. Have you seen him? Scarcely had I passed them when I found the one my heart loves. I held him and would not let him go. She's squeezing the stuffing out of him till I brought him to my mother's house, to the room of the one who conceived me. Again, it has this, I really want him. I want him in every way. I want him relationally, but also want him sexually. It's like, whoa, you're not married yet. What's going on? And then she puts on the brakes in this thought. She says, daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, I adjure you, some of your versions say, by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. This raised the question that we dealt with a few weeks back now. This dealt with the question, is this love? Is this love? Or man, it sounds almost like lust. What's the difference, You got love and you got lust. In some ways, they're kind of looking alike. And so then we looked at Proverbs chapter 7, because it's also written by Solomon. And in Proverbs chapter 7, he's going to talk about what does it mean to look at full-blown lust. What does that mean? Okay, Proverbs 7. And he's going to describe this situation to his son. Because he's talking to his son, he's going to use a woman as the bad guy, bad gal, whatever. So don't pick on women. It could have been the other way. If he'd had a daughter, he certainly would have talked about guys. So it just happens to be he's training his son, and there's this woman, and it says she's out, and it's an analogy. He's just making it up. Go to the next one. He says, this is the woman speaking now, and here's what she says. Go one more there. It says, I have fellowship offerings at home. Today I fulfilled my vows, so I came out to meet you. I looked for you and have found you. I've covered my bed with colored linens from Egypt. I've perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let's drink deep of love till morning. Let's enjoy ourselves with love. She's using the word love, and then look at the next line. My husband is gone. He's not at home. This is just a tryst. This is not love. This is just a tryst. He has gone on a long journey. He took his purse filled with money and will not be home till full moon. And then Solomon uses these words. He says, with persuasive words, she led him astray. She seduced him with her smooth talk. All at once he followed her, like an ox going to the slaughter, like a deer stepping into a noose till an arrow pieces his liver, like a bird darting into a snare. I think we get the idea. Okay, this is bad, right? Little knowing it will cost him his life, that this thing is going to a train wreck. The thing that God designed, he designed sex to be such a thing that you go after that ends up being fulfilling, non-shameful, ending aloneness. That's Genesis 2 language. The way he designed it ends up going down to areas where it's a shame. You feel more alone. It's not just, there's no such thing as just having a friend with benefits. There's this relational thing that happens that's gone. And so you feel more alone. And so then we looked at this chart that talks about what's the difference between love and lust. Because on the top line, they look exactly the same. They're both very passionate. Okay? That's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But then it goes down, if you look at both sides, and it leads to different ways that plays out. The one is seeking out love. The other one is seeking out, I will get release. I want more and more. And as you follow this whole thing down, what it really comes down to is it about the way God designs it and says, I will go after sex the way God designs it because 2 reasons. 1, I fear God. 2, I know that that's the way of maximum joy, maximum sex. That's what it is. Or am I going to go down this road because that's what my body says. My body says, I am horny, and I'm just going to do what it says. And that will lead me to what I think is going to be good, and it doesn't. All right? It ends up, if you just follow that, you're chasing after it, so you need more and more and more and more. It doesn't satisfy. And at the very end, it leads to aloneness and shame, or worse things, relational train wreck. It's kind of like chocolate. I'm not a big chocolate person, but if you like chocolate, say like fudge, okay? Fudge. And you take fudge, and you go, right? That's good. How are you going to feel? Right? Fudge is not designed to just be completely engulfed in your mouth. Fudge has rules of fudge, right? Little bit, at appropriate times. And said, I like fudge. I'm just going to chow it. You will hew. I promise you. It just. What's the analogy? I don't know. But your body will crave this, but it's a good craving. It just needs to be satisfied the way God designed it. The way God designed it. So we took that last thing, and we talked about a few things. Core did 3 weeks on false intimacy. He talked about false intimacy and where that leads to. And first we started with an issue that is huge now. It's pornography. Pornography is the epitome of false intimacy. Because, remember, sex was designed by God. It's not good that the man's alone. And then it says in the very end, the man is, it says that the two become one flesh, which implies sexual union between a man and a woman. And then it says the man and woman both naked and they felt no shame. The issue of what I call two-dimensional sex, in other words, you don't even know this person, it's just two-dimensional. They don't have any width. They're height and, no, they don't have depth. They have width. They don't have depth. Okay, but the concept here is that I can get this fulfilled. I can get this relational need that I have, this satisfaction I have out of a screen or out of a pictures in a magazine. But these days, it's mostly the screen. And I feel for you. I'll be totally right? That wasn't the way it was when I was growing up. When I was going through, my own personal becoming of puberty and all those kind of things. That's just not the way it was. I mean, in order for me to get pornography, when I was in college, I would have had to have thought about it, have a thought, pornography. And then I'd have to go, and if I owned a car, some of my college years I didn't, I'd have to get downtown to Block E, Block E is nothing like Block E used to be. Anybody remember where Block E was before? Man, it was wicked. It was just horrible, and that's why they cleaned it all up. But it was just sex shops, and it was gross. Prostitutes, all kind of thing going on just with sex trade and different things. So you'd have to go down there. You have to go get out of your car, park it ways away. Then you have to get out of your car. You have to walk and go into the shop. Maybe people would see you, maybe not. And then you'd have to go in there. You go down to a little booth and put quarters in or whatever. Then whole thing. And then you have to do the whole thing in reverse and go home. It was just those of you who are chemistry people, the activation energy. Anybody? Was so high. You just go no. Now the activation energy is zero. I'm bored. Click, 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 boom. I'm angry. Doggone it. Click, 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 boom. I'm disappointed. Didn't get that raise. Click, 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 boom. And it's just like, whoa, no activation energy. Nothing. So I feel for you. And at the same time, it has the same effects. Okay? Pornography still has the same effects upon you. It leads to this trench that makes you think it's like a drug. And it makes you feel that it's satisfying something. It's not. It's a drug. It's not satisfying anything. And so you think you need more and more and more. And like Core said, it kind of feels like this canyon. Now, the good news of the gospel is that yes, when it rains, water will normally go down this canyon. But the good news of the gospel is, hear this loud and clear. Jesus is bigger than pornography. Jesus is bigger. Jesus is more. He can transform that. But the way it's got to get transformed is a dam has to be built, and the water has to be shifted around. Way upstream, not way down at the bottom, way upstream, a dam has to be made, and then you can turn. And that with the gospel's help, you can change. You can change. So Court talked about that. He also talked about relationships outside the way God designed them. So he talked about fornication, homosexuality, adultery, all these different things, and saying this is everybody was wrestling with their own sexuality, no doubt. Nobody in this room has their sexuality figured out. At the same time, those are out of bounds things. And because they're out of bounds, it's not because God's a killjoy. It's because he's trying to give you the maximum pleasure, maximum safe sex, if you want it, from God. And that's what he's designed. So Cor talked about that as well. Last week he talked about redemption from all of that. Now, that's kind of a recap to get you up to speed. First week here, you really didn't miss much. Here we go. What I want to talk about this week is, I told you, a tale of two processions. The first procession I'm calling a royal wedding, okay? A royal wedding. For those of you born after 88, this is to show that I'm hip with the times. That is a picture of Prince William, and I'm calling her Katie. That's Queen Katie. Doesn't have a ring to it. I coined it. So if she uses it, 10%. Queen Katie and Prince Willie. King Willie. Willie and Katie. Yeah. Anyway, I remember when the big deal for, I don't remember the date. I don't remember how long. It was quite a while ago, though. Princess Di Princess Di and Prince Charles? Almost said charming. Prince Charles were wedded. It was a big deal. I remember watching it live on television, and the processional was amazing. That's what I want to talk about today. So if you got that Bible, open it up to Song of Solomon chapter 3. We're going to look at 6 verses, 6 through 11. I want to read them through, and then we'll make some comments along the way. Here we go. Reading from verses 6 through 11. Who is this coming up from the desert like a column of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and incense made from all the spices of the merchant? Look, it is Solomon's carriage, escorted by 60 warriors, the noblest of Israel, all of them wearing the sword, all experienced in battle, each with his sword at his side, prepared for the terrors of the night. King Solomon made for himself the carriage. He made it of wood from Lebanon. Its posts he made of silver, its base of gold. Its seat was upholstered with purple, its interior lovingly inlaid by the daughters of Jerusalem. Come out, you daughters of Jerusalem, and look at King Solomon wearing the crown with which his mother crowned him on the day of his wedding, the day his heart rejoiced. Now, this is as close as we're going to get to a wedding in this deal. There is no wedding ceremony. It doesn't exist. It's in the white space between the end of chapter 3 and when we get to chapter 4, we're going to get to the wedding night. How you doing? So there's a space in there. We'll talk about that space in 2 weeks. Next week is Easter. We'll talk about Easter. But the white space about what happens at the wedding and what covenant is and all those kind of things. But we're looking at the processional today. And I want to hit on this processional, this whole concept. I want to hit it on 3 levels. And one of these levels, I can guarantee you, both services this morning, nobody told me, and I can guarantee you've never heard a sermon on this, and you probably never will. I'm never preaching on it again. The first one I'm going to talk about is wedding planning. That's the first. Like, what? Well, it's talking about this processional and some of the things. I'm going to talk about some of the wedding planning. Second thing is marriage preparation, or if you're married, what's some of these? We're going to take 4 stops along the way. I have a little point of clarification in the first one, but then 4 stops along the way, and I'm going to get a principle out there. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to say, how does that involve for marriage preparation, or if you are married, how that works in your marriage. And then lastly, I want to talk about what does this say about us as people? What does this say about us as we deal in other areas of our life, these principles that we extract? What you're going to find in this processional, and just some of the things that come through, are we can extract some principles that are there in the way I take it, the King Solomon planned, that shows you some of the key things that we need as people. And so when I extract these principles and show you where we get them from, you'll see how those hit in. Now, let me just encourage you with something else. By the time I'm done with this and you look at this and the questions I ask you, you're going to feel rotten. And that's not to say you're really rotten. it's to say the gospel transformation is to show some of the ways biblical thinking happens and how we can act and how we can be. Gospel, though, happens, we'll talk about that at the end of this, when Christ satisfies those needs and you're able then, out of fullness, to meet those things. Not to do things to score points with God. So I'm going to go through some of these things. You're going to go, wow, I messed up there, or I've been a mess up there. So we'll talk about them. All right, now, let's go through this. First thing, we have a little bit of a point of clarification I want to hit. The first word in Song of Solomon 3:6, okay, who is this coming? Okay, so does anybody have a Bible open other than an NIV? Does anybody in here right now have, okay, what does it say? What's the first word? What? Are you asking me? Oh, no, it's just a dumb joke. All three services and nobody laughed until I said dumb joke. So that must be one of those to not repeat. That's what I'm thinking. Boy, I tried 3 times. It just doesn't work. So, okay, anyway, what? Okay, here's the deal. That's a tricky word. And really, how you understand that word actually is a little bit how you understand what's going on. Here's the problem. It is the pronoun who. The problem with it is, it's the pronoun is in the feminine. Now, we don't understand that in English because we don't have a pronoun that is male or female. We don't have that. We don't have a who and a who. We don't have those. But they do in other languages. If you know Spanish or French or German or all these other languages, different words have different pronouns. You can put little endings on the end of it, and they have gender then attached to them, and it tells you who you're talking about. All right? So the who here is feminine. Now that's a problem because if you read through the rest of the chapter, it sounds like Solomon is coming in this chariot or this carriage, right? So it's like, well, how can that be? Because the who is feminine. So you have one of 3 options. Number 1, the who is just, for some reason, stylistic reasons, which they normally don't do, but it could be talking about Solomon. The second possibility is the who could actually be more like a what in describing the carriage that he's coming in. Now, the carriage, that particular word, is a feminine word. It's just how we talk about cars, too, right? Isn't she a beauty, right? We talk about our car. Anybody got a male car? No, you don't. No. No. We're having this debate. No, sorry, you don't. I mean, you look at like Hope Bus. Isn't she a beaut? Well, maybe Hope Bus is a guy. Yeah, and you might have some. Okay, so, but generally you say of like boats, isn't she a beauty, or those kind. Use the feminine. So it could be describing this carriage. So then it'd be what? And some translators of different versions of the Bible. Did you have the English Standard Version? Or okay, very good. So that's what. Now, others have who. And so it could be Solomon. It could be the carriage it's describing. Therefore, it'd be a what, or it could be that she's in there. Now the commentaries are about a third. So I want to let you know which way I go because I'm going to kind of talk about that. I actually think it's she. I think it's she, because of the pronoun here. Now there's other reasons why you can take it to be other ways, and we can argue about it later. It's not a huge deal. Nothing I'm going to say is going to matter. You could all shift it. But I want to let you know that I'm leaning towards it's her. That Solomon sent this carriage. He's picking her up, and then he's describing this situation as she's coming back towards Jerusalem where he lives. Okay? That's the way I understand it. So I'm taking just a moment here to explain where I'm going. But it'll all work if you think it's talking about the carriage or Solomon. But that's where I'm going, and that's why it will go that way. Okay. Now, there is some biblical precedent to that. There, possibly. Genesis 2, when God creates Eve. So the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, and while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and closed up the place with flesh. So he heals him up. He's got the rib. Then it says, then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man. So he takes the rib, and I don't know how far away you got to go to make a woman. Never done that, but you got to move a certain distance. I don't know. But then it says, because it says, the last phrase is, and he brought her to the man. So it wasn't done like right here. He moved a little bit of a distance, so he had to be the first, walk Eve down the aisle, I guess. There's probably no center aisle in Eden either. And so Eve was escorted by God to Adam. Possibly. No, and that's true, but it could be that way with Song of Solomon. All right, with that said, let's take a look at these. I'm going to take four, kind of break this into four different things. First one, who is this coming up from the desert like a column of smoke? So you're seeing this thing coming looks from the desert, and you see like a column of smoke. You see this dot in the distance, and it's coming, and there's smoke coming up, okay? And then it says, perfumed with myrrh. So they're close enough now, you can smell it. And incense, myrrh and incense made from all the spices of the merchant. In other words, they're fancy. It smells really good. Anybody grow up in a tradition where there was bells and smells? You know, nobody, huh? You don't know what I'm talking about. I could make it up. Then you wouldn't matter. But some traditions have, they walk by and they carry the Bible in, and then they have this incense, and it just has a smell. It's a great smell. Okay, and so there's this, you use your sense of smell. It's just a way of using one more sense to honor God. It's totally fine. And that's what they're doing here. They're as this, now I'm taking it that she's coming towards him. Could be the other way around, fine with that, but and it's coming, and there's this big parade. You can see there's so much incense burning, it looks like a column of smoke. Now, what's the principle I'm extracting from this? What was in Solomon's planning here? And I think it was this, declaration. I think he wants to declare to the world, that's the woman I'm getting married to. That's her. Okay? He's declaring it. Now let me hit it on those three levels. Let me hit it on the three levels. First off, I really am going to talk about wedding planning. Wedding planning. Here we go. What does it mean to declare yourself or declare it? First thing is, and now this will mostly apply to guys, but it does sometimes it flips. It doesn't necessarily go that way always. I'd say 70% one way in just my experience, and maybe 80% where it's guys, but once in a while it's flipped, okay? So let me just, since that's the case, generally speaking, let me talk about this. The issue is, be involved in the wedding planning. Be involved in the wedding planning, all right, men? Primarily men. Sometimes it's women. But let me just give you words that don't work, okay? Let me just speak as though as if it's coming from a guy. It could be the other way around, but let me just say it that way. These words don't work. Whatever you want, baby. Now, every woman in the room, no guys, I don't want to hear any guys. Every woman in the room, what did you just hear me say? When he says, whatever you want, baby, what is he really saying? 3 services, complete unanimous. I'm serious. Every one of them, what they heard was, I don't care. Now, men, I'm just encouraging you with something. This is not the moment for honesty, okay? Because if she says to you, what I just heard you say was, I don't care. And you're like, we're doing great communication because I don't care. You cannot pay me enough to counsel you out of this one, okay? That's not good. That's not good. The right answer, gentlemen, write this down. I don't care if you're 12 and you're not getting married for 31 years. Write it down. You know what? The color of the dresses is really not one of my highest priorities, but because I deeply care about you, I want to talk to you about it. Don't laugh, start writing. I don't care about the color of they can wear a burlap sack for all I care. Again, very bad, very bad, very bad. Don't do that. Be involved. Declare to them your love for them because this is important to them. It's an important thing. And right off the bat, you're making a statement about how are you going to react when things don't really matter to you. I care about you, so therefore I care about this. All right? That's one way you declare it. Second way you can declare it is just like Solomon, big cloud of smoke here and saying, I'm proud of her. I want everybody to know that's the woman that I want to be with. Introduce her, introduce him, show him off. Now let's talk about marriage. If you're in a marriage relationship, what does that look like? What does it look like that you are showing them off? It means that you talk highly of them to around others. It means that you make a you make a covenant with that person that you will never publicly humiliate them. Never. Carol and I have made that commitment. I did it once. I will never do it. It was totally a slip of the tongue, and it was a sarcastic shot at her. We weren't having the best couple days, and I made a mistake. I don't even remember the situation, but I know I did it once. And she said, that really hurt. And I was like, oh, man, what was I doing? Never do that. It shows that I'm proud of her, and that I want people to know that I really am proud of her. Just yesterday, I like to say this phrase when I introduce her. I like to say, this is my better 7/8. Huh? I'm saying, that's good. That's a good line. That's good. You can take that. This is my better 7/8. Or I like to, like yesterday, I came to the kitchen. She's cooking up, doing something. And she said, I said to her, man, I really married up. You know what she said to me? She said, mm-hmm. Now, I didn't know I was fishing until what I caught was not what I think I was fishing for. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, do you ever think, like, you married up? And she responded, yeah. And, of course, it was this big embrace. One of those moments where our kids walk in and go, oh, man, get a room, which I always respond back by going, go get the mortgage. Is your name on the mortgage? When it's on the mortgage, you can smooch in the kitchen. If it's not, get off, quit complaining. Ask my kids. I say it all the time. Life. How do you apply this in life? How do you apply declaration in life? I have one and only one rule on how I manage all the staff here at Hope. Now, I don't individually manage every single staff, but I have influence on every one of them and the key leaders at Hope in a growing church. How do I do it? I have one secret. I'm going to give it to you. I catch them doing something good, and I tell them. That's it. That's my one management secret. If I were to write a book, it'd be that sentence. That's it. I got nothing more. You probably could make a book out of it, but that's it, right? I catch them doing something good, and I tell them. You know how much power there is in that? You know why? Because nobody's telling them something good. Everybody else is just trying to knock the feet out from underneath them. And if you're that one person that comes and says, man, you know what? You know what, Rachel? You did a great job on spring retreat. I'm just really proud of you. I know it was a lot of work. Shannon, you did a great job on spring retreat. Stacy, I saw Stacy. Are they in the service here? Are they not in here? Because they were out there, and I teased them that they were going to go in the back room and make out. Are they? Security, go check every room in this building. Stacy, you did a great job on spring retreat. The three-headed monster that took care of spring retreat. You guys did a great job on spring retreat. You catch them doing something good, and you tell them. Because then it gives me the opportunity, and with authority, and because they know I care for them, to talk about the 93 things they got to work on, right? Because we all got them, okay? But because they know I'm for them. You do that in people's lives, you'll notice a couple things. One, people will start to be attracted to you, and they'll start to want to be your friend, want to hang around. Why? Because you're one of the few people that actually speaks into their life in a positive way. Second thing, a second stop along the way. Look, it is Solomon's carriage, escorted by 60 warriors, the noblest of Israel, all of them wearing the sword, all experienced in battle, each with his sword at his side, prepared for the terrors of the night. Again, I take this that she's coming and they're protecting her, but again, it could go the other way, but that's the way I see it. And David, King David, who is Solomon's father, had mighty men. How many of them? Does anybody know? 30. He had 30 of his tightest guys who are his buddies and also great in battle. Solomon says 60, and look what it says about them. Noblest, each of them wearing a sword, all experienced in battle, and by the way, if you didn't hear it, they have a sword, okay? They have a sword, and they're prepared for the terrors of night. These are rough guys. They're not only just rough guys, they're not only just great warriors. Generally in a wedding, who do you have as your guys, right? Your best friends. So these are Solomon's homies. These are his guys. They're like standing up here, you know. Groomsmen over here, bridesmaids over there. They're like the people. And what is this element here? Clearly, what is he talking about? He's talking about protection. Solomon is providing protection. You get your protection your way, I'll get it my way. That's all I'm saying. But so it provides this element of protection. Now, Let's take that concept and see how does that work into these 3 levels. First level, wedding planning. Number 1, wedding planning is probably one of the most stressful things you will ever do in your entire life. I'm just saying it is. It just is. Nothing ever goes to plan. It's by God's sovereignty that he allows you to go through this, because you make it through that, you can pretty much make it through anything. It's really stressful. I remember when I was typing on a computer. Yes, they had those in 1988. It wasn't chiseling into a stone. Our programs, I was typing them up, and I had one of only 3 times in my life that I can remember, I had an anxiety attack. Those of you who've ever had those sometime, you know what they're talking about. Everything starts to go narrow, you start to sweat, and you feel like you're going to pass out. And I had to put my head on the desk and just get blood to flow again. And just like, whoa, okay, easy, Tiger. It's a stressful time. What are you doing? What are you doing to help each other with this stress level? What are you doing to protect each other from the stress level? Second thing, and this is a big one, and usually causes a lot of the stress. And I say this, and I know I'm going to hurt some people in the room, but you may have to hear this, okay? You need to protect each other from the expectations in wedding planning of the other person's family, or maybe your own family. Because sometimes it's amazing what a wedding will do at times to regular, normal people. They go schizo. They just go nuts. And it's like, okay, just take some morphine and just relax. So I'm a very easygoing guy. My gift to the couple is that I run the rehearsal with an iron fist. But it's a kind, nice iron fist. I don't know if those two fit together, but it is. And I've told them this, and this is my gift to every couple, their wedding gift from me. You give me your ceremony. I really don't care what you do, but you give me your ceremony. When you hand it to me, it's locked. There are no changes. So when Aunt Martha comes screaming up saying, oh, I really want you to wear this cheese head that I wore in my wedding, I will look at Aunt Martha and I will say this: no, I don't want that in my wedding. Aunt Martha then is going to come to the couple and go, your pastor is a jerk. And they have my full permission to say, I know. Gosh, I really wanted to wear that. Life. What does it mean to be a person of protection? It means simply this: are you a safe person? Are you a person that people can come to and they know that what you tell them will not end up in their blog? It will not end up on Facebook. It will not end up in social gossip. What they tell you will stay with you. It will go nowhere else. Are you that kind of person that actually cares enough and protects people so that no one else knows? Or if you need advice from someone up, you either ask for permission or you take it to someone like a pastor or whatever and say, I have a friend, I'm not going to say their name, but here's the situation and it can't go anywhere. I'm just trying to get some help to understand how to help them. That's it though. You are a safe person. You are protecting them. You are for them. Third thing. Solomon builds himself a carriage. It says King Solomon made for himself the carriage. He made it of wood from Lebanon. Its posts he made of silver, its base of gold. His seat was upholstered with purple, its interior lovingly inlaid by the daughters of Jerusalem. Okay, so the idea is here, he makes this huge, fancy carriage. He's not going out and finding a 1972 Ford Pinto to get her and bring her back. He makes a really nice vehicle for her. And the idea here is, granted, he had a lot of money, but the concept is he is invested. He has taken and he's pushed all his chips in, saying, I am invested in this relationship. All right, now let's talk about these wedding planning. First thing is, if you are in the midst of wedding planning, you are getting shocked even right now by how much this stuff costs. It's just expensive. You got to realize it is the biggest party you are ever going to throw except for your funeral, and you're not going to be there. It is. It's a huge party. And there are times to invest. Now, not just foolishly and not just all those kind of things, but in a wedding, there's a great ROI. Huh? Accountants? Huh? return on investment. You invest this amount of money, and there is a cost benefit to it. In the wedding planning, are you willing to spend money on the things? And I'm not talking about going to the buco debt and all that kind of thing that takes you 5, 8, 10 years to get out. I'm not talking about that. But I am saying, is there ways, creative ways, that you can show your investment in this thing? In marriage, how do you invest? My wife, more than anything, wants my time, wants me to talk with her. She wants me, and this is something you might want to write down, gentlemen, because this is definitely true. What she wants from me is she wants me to invest by asking one simple question. Here it is. How was your day? And then to do this radical thing. Listen to what she's saying. Sometimes we'll go, I'm the talker, believe it or not, but I'm the talker, and I'll just blah, 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 all this and that and the other thing, and sometimes it'll be like 10 o'clock at night, and she'll say, in a loving but yet kind of a corrective way, you haven't asked me at all about my day. To which I kind of want to respond, well, it's kind of late now, why don't we just wait and see how tomorrow goes? But that's, no. How was your day? Listen, she wants that investment. Am I sharing her with my life to her? Women, what guys deeply want is respect. And for you to look at them and say, you know what? Man, when you did this, you just knocked it out of the park. I'm so proud of you. That's the investment that they want. I want you to say, I'm proud of you. Slap them on the rear end. That's the way to go. In life, what does it mean to invest in other people? It just means this. Are you a generous person? With your time, with your talents, with your money, your treasure, and your ticker, your heart. Are you willing to be a person who, when people know that you are a giver, you invest in them, you actually care, you move towards them? Fourth area. Come out, you daughters of Zion, and look at King Solomon wearing the crown which his mother crowned him on the day of his wedding, the day his heart rejoiced. So the crown probably wasn't his royal crown. We don't know a whole lot about weddings in those days, but it probably was a crown of flowers or something like that you got ready for on your wedding. Like we'd wear a boutonniere today or whatever. Is that what they call it for guys? Or boutonniere, yeah. And it's kind of like that, symbolic, and it's something she put on for him. And then it says it's the day his heart rejoiced. Come and take a look at this. And what I'm grabbing here, what the planning aspect was, that the principle you can take from this to apply is celebration. Celebration. This is not an American idea. We are to-do list people, right? We are to-do list people, and when we take something from the to-do list and get it to the to-done list, we don't celebrate. In fact, some of you even have computer programs or like a schedule that when you check it, it just disappears. That is evil. It needs to leave it there and put a line through it. And then you go, oh yeah, I brushed my teeth today. Oh yeah. All right? So you celebrate that. Yeah. I'm one of those crazy nuts that in my day, and I forget about my do list, then I go back to the do list, and a few things were on there that I did, I write them down just to cross them off. Oh yeah, something wasn't on the list that I wrote down, write that down too, and cross it off. Wedding planning. Wedding planning. Let's just say this. If you're planning a wedding and thinking of it not as a celebration, you're going to kill yourself. This is a party. You got to fight for your right. Party. Okay, so I'm serious though. If you don't view the wedding as a party and you're just trying to make it through it, you are going to have a miserable time. I say this every time when I do a rehearsal. And I say these words. I say, the rehearsal night, I say, I'm glad you're all here. We're going to work through things so we get it all prepped out so we can just relax. And tomorrow, we're going to party because a hitching's going to take place. That's my line. You'll hear it often. You're going to party like that. This is a party. Do we actually do that? Do you actually look at that as your wedding? Man, we're just trying to set up something fun. It's going to be great. In marriage, we are really bad, like I said, in our culture of celebrating stuff. And Carol and I have just made a decision that we're going to celebrate some stuff. And we have 2 special restaurants that we go to. I'll share which one they are. I don't have any cut here. They're Lindy's up in Arden Hills. Can I get an amen? Huh? Anybody? No. You Go there, celebrate. Lindy's, a little spendy, a little spendy, but oh man, best steakhouse in town. That's arguable, but it's good. Very good steakhouse. Lindy's up in Arden Hills, complete hole in the wall, unbelievable steak. Second place is a place in Stillwater called Mark's. And Mark Hansen is the owner, fantastic food. We go to those food places, we reserve them because they're a little more spendy. By the time you pay a tip of $70 for the two of us, that's a lot, right? Those are places we go to celebrate. And what we do there is we celebrate. Not allowed to bring poo-poo stuff, whatever poo-poo stuff is. But you are there to celebrate whatever God's done, something that happens in our lives, whatever. We're there to party. Are you doing that? Or do you just cross it off your list and just keep moving to the next thing? Just keep moving. There's no joy in that. There's no joy. On the day his heart rejoiced, the passage says. And then lastly, in life, do you take time to actually celebrate other people's wins? Or when they're telling you a story, are you just very quick to want to say, kind of like when I showed up at spring retreat, me monster? Are you just, well, that's nothing. I caught a bigger fish than that. Are you just eager to do that? Or are you championing other people and say, oh man, that was awesome. How did you feel when you caught that fish, huh? I think Noah's a great example of this. I'm going to embarrass you, bud. We went up steelheading. I've been steelheading for 3 years now. I have never caught one. And a week and a half ago, right? 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, I caught my first steelhead. I let this primal scream out. I'm not kidding. It was a little weird, but I got it. It's in my hand. Got this. It was in my hands. And, oh, just kidding. Sorry. It was in my hands. And Noah came running because he was down about, 300 yards or so in a different spot. And he came running up, and I could see in his eyes, he was more excited that I had caught something. Of course, that day, how many did you catch that day? Oh, that's right, none. Wow. You mean. But yeah, he was more excited for me. That was really cool. That was really cool. You celebrate people's wins. Are you on their team saying, oh, way to go? Now, that's processional number one. Processional number two. Processional number two. This, what I want to talk about next, does not come from this passage. You would not normally go from Song of Solomon, chapter 3, 6 through 11, and then go to where I'm going to go next. It doesn't go. What makes it go is the church calendar. Today is Palm Sunday. And I couldn't help in preparing this message to think about this processional happening, that today is the day that we celebrate in church history, Palm Sunday, when Jesus had a huge processional as he enters into, which this week is called Holy Week. This is the week he comes into Jerusalem knowing that he's not going to make it by the end of the week. He's going to die on Friday. He knows what's going to happen if he comes back. And this processional that he's on is just this awesome story of courage and I'm sure trepidation as he's coming into Jerusalem. And I want to read it through it this morning or evening or night or whatever it is. Luke 19. It says, after Jesus had said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. As he approached Bethphage and Bethany at the hill called the Mount of Olives, which is the same place he's going to be betrayed in on Thursday night by Judas, he sent two of his disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, why are you untying it? Tell them, the Lord needs it. Those who went were sent ahead and went and found it just as he told them. As they were untying the colt, its owners asked them, why are you untying the colt? They replied, the Lord needs it. I love that they include that, right? This is an interesting thing. They don't just bother to say that he found this colt. They tell the story like it's so important that Jesus knew it was going to happen. That's one of the reasons I love the story. The other reason I love it is just kind of smell the air as if you were there. And here are these two disciples, and they're taking this colt. They're taking it. And the owners rightfully say, yo, what are you doing? And they say, the Lord needs it. And the owner said, oh, okay. It's just interesting. Okay. They brought it to Jesus. They threw their cloaks on the colt because they didn't have a saddle. Jesus, the King of Kings, is going to come in with no saddle. And they put Jesus on it. As he went along, people spread their cloaks on the ground because that's how you welcome incoming kings. When he came near the place where the road goes down the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices. So when you think disciples, I know you're thinking just the 12, but disciple means learner or follower. So it's this huge crowd, and they start screaming in loud voices, to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they had seen. And here's what they say: "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest." Some of the religious people, the Pharisees in the crowd, said to Jesus, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." And Jesus says, "I tell you, if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out." Now, he's not talking about Mick Jagger there. Those of you born after 1988, that's a British rock band, okay? Anyway, he says, "Listen, I'm coming in. This is such an amazing event that these inanimate stones, these rocks, would scream out. It's such a big deal." And he does that. He goes into Jerusalem to justify God so that he can be a forgiver, and he does it because he loves you that deeply. That's amazing. That's what this week means. That every step of the way, he's coming in joyfully and trepidation filled as he's going along this path, the second processional here. And if you look at those issues, those principles we took, and how we can start to help in other people's lives with those, look at how Jesus fits each one of those. First one, declaration. Declaration. What does God think? What's the column of smoke that he says about you? But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. It wasn't when you were acceptable and clean before God. It's when you were still a sinner, slapping God in the face, that God said, "I love you so much, I'll die for you anyway. Send Christ." That's screaming to the world that he loves you. Protection, John 10. "I'm the good shepherd, and I know my sheep." He's like a shepherd over his sheep. "And my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I care for so much for them, I will die for them." Investment. Well, how does God feel about you? Investment, Romans 8:32. "He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things?" If you wonder what God thinks about you, you feel like there's a little bit of a wall between the two of you, if you wonder if God is all in with you, look at that. It screams, "I'm all in. I'm all in." That's what I think of you. And then lastly, celebration. And an Old Testament prophecy about what's going to happen, the time of Christ and beyond. Zephaniah, "The Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing." God parties over you. And that's the gospel. The gospel is what fuels you so that you can be those things for other people. If you don't have it that way, you'll just try to crank this other stuff out. When you understand of who you are in Christ, whether you're single, married, been through a bad breakup or whatever, if those things are fueling you, then you can be that for other people. The gospel is what does it. Now, let me break right there. I think that's where I had the question mark, right? Yes. Let's open it up for any questions you might have at all, and see if anybody has something to ask about either processional or anything that was brought up so far. How do I define a processional? I would say I define a processional as a processional. As a string of people, or like a parade kind of a thing, to prepare for a big event. It's not the event, but it's the preparation before the event. That's a great question. I don't think I've ever defined that word before. So, wow, I learned something new too. So that was what I'd say. The processional into Jerusalem was to define what's going to happen. The processional for Solomon and this woman is the event, which will be their wedding. But that's not talked about in the Song of Solomon. Great question. Great. Anybody else? Is that the sum total of your question? Yeah. That's fine. That's cool. All right. Let me close by asking you this. As you look at those four areas, let me just close by asking you this question. Are you along Jesus? Are you along Jesus? The second processional, what he thought about you this week, Holy Week, what's going to take place? Good Friday, Christ's going to die for you. He did it 2,000 years ago. And on Sunday, he's going to raise from the dead. It's an amazing event. Are you allowing Jesus Christ to fill each one of those four areas in your life so that you can give them to other people? Let's pray together.